Forged by the fires of our trials, refined by God's craftsmanship.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Virilis podcast. Tyler here, and we're going to be talking to a very wonderful individual, someone who's lived a really challenging life, and someone who's going to be giving back and helping others escape some of the challenges he was facing. Today we're going to be talking with Jeremy. Jeremy, how you doing, sir?
Hey, how's it going? Glad to be here.
Happy to hear, man. Let's go as far back as we can, because you have a very illustrious story, a lot of challenges that you faced, but it's hard to find a starting point because it's so messy, your story. But you yourself have given so many elevator pitches on the life you escaped from. So go and give it to me just like you'd be giving a tour at the facilities you work at now. So give it to me straight.
Yeah, so, starting from a young age, from about 13 years old, I was introduced to drugs and gangs, and really growing up with no role model, no father figure in my life. I turned to the streets for any type of guidance, and the guidance I was getting was nothing positive. I looked to the streets for as a father figure, and it actually took me in as that, and when I got introduced to drugs and alcohol, really it made me change who I was, the person I was trying to put the mask on, and really it just took me down a spiral, but it's something that I was comfortable with, something that I was accustomed to from a very young age, and just from I felt accepted, I felt welcomed, I felt like a part of, and so for so long. That's just what I turned to, because I was trying to mask everything that happened to me at a very young age, and drugs and alcohol was my way to turn to do that.
When you say young age, what's like your earliest memory of escaping, doing drugs to distract you from what's going on?
It was definitely at 13 years old. At 13 years old, we moved to a place that was a very small town. It's called Castroville. We're just if you're not involved in sports or anything like that, drugs and gangs are the way to adapt to your surroundings, and that's exactly what I did.
Yeah. So, for our audience, walk me through that first time, that first hit or whatever you were doing. What was it, and how did you get access to it? What led you to do it?
Well, when I first moved to this small town, I was fighting. I wasn't a fighter, until I finally fought and I won, and I was like, man, this is something I know how to do. And so that's when I became a fighter, and I met up with some older kids, and they were drinking, and they asked me, hey, have you ever drank before? And me, just trying to sound cool, said, yes, I've drank before. And he said, oh, well, here. And when I took that first drink, it made me it changed the way I was feeling, and it made me more sociable, more I didn't care, and after that first drink, it was like it woke up that sleeping tiger inside of me, and I was just ready to roll after that. And any time that I needed to do something or whatever, I knew that alcohol would intensify that, where I wouldn't care who it was or where it was. I would just do whatever I wanted to do, and I didn't care about life at that point.
Yeah. So for our audience, can we share that you were in the gang? You don't have to name, but you were in gangs.
Yeah.
And you had a role in the gang you were in. Can you clarify that role for our audience?
Yeah. When it was when I first got introduced to gangs, I was fighting both sides, and they knew that I wasn't going to give up, and they seen that I was a force to be reckoned with, so they embraced me. When I felt that embrace, it was something I've been looking for my whole life, because I grew up without a dad. And so the streets kind of took me in. And when it did that, I was like, man, now I'm a part of something that I actually am good at, something I could do. And that's when I turned my life over to the gangs, and I would do whatever it took to impress them.
Yeah. And just give us some cliff notes. Give us a couple of examples of things that you were asked to do at a young age that you may not have done had you not been drinking alcohol.
Yeah. I mean, there was times where I was always a bigger kid, you know, so I was always called to go do robberies. I was able to fit through little windows, you know. And I wouldn't question it. If the older guys asked, then I was going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So looking back, and this is still at the time when you're 13, and I'm trying to really hang around this time because this is still a time when you were relatively innocent.
Mm.
You hadn't lost it all yet, and we're all innocent, right? To some extent, even to adulthood, but there's this extra innocence a child has. Is there ever a time when you felt like you can remember where it was like you did one thing and there was like no going back from that?
Oh yeah, there was times where you know, even at 13 years old, to be around drugs and alcohol and weapons and guns and stuff like that. I thought this is how a 13-year-old is supposed to live in a town like this. And so, you know, after there was just times where I felt that maybe I'm not supposed to be hurting people. You know, maybe I'm not supposed to be robbing people at 13. You know, but then I felt, what else am I going to do? What else am I good at? And at that point, I didn't really have an answer for myself.
Right. And so it was like something was better than nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll start, you know, getting on the time train, fast forward a bit. You started with alcohol.
Yeah.
But it progressed into bigger things. How soon was it between your first drink and then like when you started losing your ability to function?
So at 13, I started taking my first drinks, and about 15, that's when I had my first actual drug that was, and it was called crank, and it was something that in 8th grade I was using to even just go to school, you know, before I was acting like I was showering, where really I was in there sniffing drugs to go to school, and that's where my drug use really progressed right there. Mm-hmm. So by the time 8th grade was right there, I was a full-blown addict at 15.
At 15, yeah. So I want to clarify this for our audience. What Jeremy's talking about is counteracting hangovers with introducing other substances. Mm. Crank brings a lot of energy into the body through the mind, obviously. So you were so dysfunctional from how much alcohol you were drinking, you need something else to counteract. And you'd rather introduce substances than, you know, drink less because you were so much of an alcoholic at 13, 14, 15. Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, and I was not allowed to miss school. So I was like, all right, Mom, well, you want me to go to school? I'll go to school, but I'm going to use what I need to get through the day.
Yeah, how were you getting that crank?
I was always the youngest kid hanging out with the older crowd. Mm. You know, I was never like a small kid. So the older kids were doing it, and without even asking me, like, how old are you? Like, you know, they would just hand it to me, and I wouldn't think twice. I would just take it. Mm. And that's how it became a progression.
You ever get caught in school?
No.
Yeah?
I got kicked out, though, a lot.
Yeah, so why would you be kicked out of school? What would you do?
I was never a fighter until I got to this little town, and I knew I had to fight back. And so I was always the one to start fights. You know, I was never invited to parties and stuff like that because I was always the one to fight. And I got kicked. As soon as I got to 8th grade, I didn't really care about school anymore. My grades were low. And I got into one big fight that actually injured a kid. And that's when they said, we can't have you in here no more. So I got sent to continuation.
Yeah. Something, remind our audience, what was your hometown?
Castroville, California.
Yeah, something particularly interesting about Castroville. It's like right there in the Central Valley, Central Coast sort of area.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a lot of rival gang conflict. And you were dealing with that in school?
Yeah, at 6, when I first moved there, I came from a place called Seaside where there was a lot of diversity, you know, but then I moved to this little town, which was like everyone knew everybody. Mm-hmm. And I was really a scared, timid kid growing up from like young age because I had some stuff happen to me when I was about 3 or 4, and I learned how to put that mask on at that age. And so I was always a scared, timid kid. When I moved to this little town, my brother reminded me, dude, you got to step up for yourself or you're going to be picked on all day. And it's something my dad was a Golden Glove boxer. My dad was a professional weightlifter. And so he taught my brother how to fight, never taught me how to fight. All I knew was ball up your fist and swing them. And when I did and I won, I was like, oh, this is something I'm good at. So that's when it progressed, you know?
Yeah. So for our audience to keep track of time, now you're about 15 years old. Actually, when did you get kicked out of school?
Yeah, about 15, the middle of my 8th grade year.
Yeah, 15 years old, middle of 8th grade, got kicked out for too much fighting. Now where'd you go when you got kicked out of school?
I went to a continuation school, and when I went there, there was another rival gang that was there that I got into a lot of trouble with, and I was fighting them a lot. They were actually from another town over, and when I went to this continuation school, I was like, oh, here we go again, you know. But we were all troubled kids, and we're like, well, none of us are trying to get kicked out of the school district, you know. So this is like what we have to deal with. So it wound up being like a okay thing, you know, because that rival gang, we kind of just got along with each other because it was school, you know. So that was something that was I don't know if you want to say like a benefit to like the,
no, yeah,
you know,
there's a different set of standards for people in those continuation schools.
Yeah,
like you injure a kid fighting, that you could get kicked out of a regular school, but in continuation school that's pretty common.
Yeah,
and I guess it depends on the school, but that's the common story for areas like this where there's constant gang fighting in schools. Yeah. So 15 in this continuation school. How far did you make it in this school?
I actually completed that school, and I got to go to high school. But there was a traumatic event that happened during that time. I was in a car accident with 2 of my friends. They were brothers, and one of them was Domingo, the other one was Jacob. And when I got to this car accident, I'm the only survivor out of it, and that's what introduced me to opiates. That's when I got introduced to Vicodins and pills and stuff like that, because I broke the top vertebrae, bottom vertebrae in my back, fractured my skull. And that's what introduced me to like painkillers and stuff like that. And it's a total opposite of what the crank and meth was. Mm-hmm. And that's what took me down a whole nother rabbit hole.
Right. So you were introduced to that stuff like Vicodin, and when was that not enough anymore? Like, when did you start going to the doctor for extra or finding it elsewhere?
Well, when I was after this car accident, I was I couldn't fight. I couldn't really move too much. I was really mad at God for a long time, saying like, why did you leave me here? Why did you leave me here to deal with all this pain? And as time progressed, you know, about 19 years old is when I first tried heroin, because I ran out of pills. And then when I first tried heroin, that was it.
Yeah. Heroin is one of those ones where you do it once, you're hooked.
Oh yeah.
Potentially for life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're 19. You're now hooked on heroin. What's next?
I told myself that I would never do heroin because my father figure who stepped into my life, he was strung out on heroin, but he was also in and out of prison. You know, and I told myself I would never do that. But then after not having those pills, I was starting to feel like a sickness. I didn't know what the sickness was. And one of my older friends was like, you know what it is? It's because you're dope sick, you know? And he's like, I got something that can help you out. And I was like, you know what, more pills? And he's like, no, this is cheaper. It's easier to get, you know? And I'm like, I'm good. He goes, just take one hit and let me see if you feel better. Dude, that one hit took all the pain, the shiverings, the cold sweats. It took everything away so quick. And I was like, man, here it is. This is the answer to my problems right here. And after that, it just... Yeah.
So it was 19 now on heroin. And what happened to your life from there?
It was just... I was a full-blown addict by 21. I wind up getting into some real trouble. At this time, I already had my daughter Destiny, and at 18, and then at 19, I had my son Jeremy. So they were already along for the ride too, and I put them through a whole lot. And at 20 years old, we had a party at our house, and my kids were out visiting my wife's family, and our parties, they already knew that we were the party house, so it was a pretty big party. And then three dudes wound up getting shot at that party, and like a town over, they were gunning for me after that, because I was the only one that was a gang member at that time out of my family, and so they were targeting me. And so that's when I moved my kids out to the 209 area, and I stayed back to try to deal with everything. And that's when I kind of took a break for a little bit. I kind of took a break from the drugs and the gangs and stuff like that.
Yeah, your life was at stake. You said 209. For those of you not Californian, that's like near Stockton and all that.
It's like the Modesto area.
Yeah, Modesto. Yeah, so that's a long ways away from where you were to where you sent your kids.
Total culture shock.
Yeah, so you had to go from an addicted life, but life with your family, to now separate from your kids. How long did you stay separated from them?
I did that for about like 3 years. That's when I got introduced to the real street life. I started going to this place in Salinas, California, to a place called Chinatown, and that's where I got introduced to the people, like the big gang members, and they needed someone to run up the corner of that city, and I was able to help out. And I stayed out there for a good solid 3.5 years. 3.5 years just on the streets, slinging, selling drugs, and of course doing all the whatever the gang needed to be done.
Yeah, just like when you were 13, whatever was needed. Yeah, you had that same willingness. And it just to pause on this for a second, because there's just an interesting reoccurring theme. You did things because you felt like the gang you were working with were like your family.
Yeah.
You lost your father figure in your life, and then your replacement father figure, he ended up separated from you for things he ended up in trouble for. So it was almost like you were trying to preserve the relationship you had with these gangs through a willingness to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were like trapped by that.
Yeah. Even if it caused me to be away from my family, I felt this was what needed to be done. I didn't want them. This is something I've been working on for my whole life, for like at least my whole childhood, early childhood, So I felt it was necessary.
Yeah. So you mentioned 3 or 4 years slinging, doing whatever it took to keep in their good grace.
Yeah.
You mentioned you were on the streets. But you somewhere in this window, you end up homeless.
Yeah.
Unhoused. How long until that happened, and then how did that happen, and how long was that going on for?
It went on for that 3 years. At first, this is just, I'm a little older now, but at that time, it went on for about 3 years. That's just, it's a place that has like tents on the streets and stuff like that. So, I thought this is what it is, but I was actually, I was okay with it. I was okay with my family being away from me. I was okay with me just doing me. That's one thing about an addict is we be getting selfish, so selfish where we just care about me. That's how I was. I didn't care who I was going to step on to get what I needed, but I was going to do it. And
yeah, you not only were comfortable, from what you've told me, it sounds like you were running things.
Yeah.
You
felt good.
Yeah, you were not only were running things, but doing things to maintain your power.
Yeah.
And you thought the power you had was I don't know. You can explain it. Tell me about that sort of power you were maintaining.
I was a person that enforced rules. I was a person that felt accomplished when I was selling these drugs, and I had enough money to go and to go re-up on whatever I needed to sell. and also had my drugs to do for myself. So it was just like I was selling to feed my habit. And I was respected at a young age. I was respected at 20. I was like 23 at this time, you know, and I was respected, and getting that respect after being like a small time, you know, it felt good, you know. I felt accomplished. Like, man, I'm accomplishing what I set out to do right now.
Yeah, you definitely were accomplishing a lot given your situation. How soon till things started not working anymore? Like until your health started failing and what you had to do about all that? How soon till then?
Well, at that age, I actually went to jail for a little bit, and I got introduced to a place called City Team. That was 10 years ago. You know, I just came court ordered though. You know, just not really wanting to change, trying to get out of jail free card. You know, so I was here for everyone else. I was here for myself. I mean, not for myself, but like for my wife, for my kids.
Yeah.
Doing everything for everybody else. Still had reservations. I was like, let me just finish this program, and then I'll get back to doing what I was doing.
Yeah, when you say here, you mean here, at City Team?
Yeah, City Team program, yeah. And I thought I'm full in the system. I'm full in God. Here we go. You know, but then 12 months into the program, I started doing little things. When I hit job phase, I started doing little things. And then before I know it, I thought, I got this in the bag now. I'm going to graduate. You know, I'm going to graduate an addict again because I wound up relapsing in the program. But it didn't happen like that. You know, a month before graduation, they kicked me out.
Yeah.
And that sent me on a whole nother spiral, bro. A whole nother one.
Yeah. So you went into this program in replacement of prison sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which a lot of people can negotiate with their parole officers and judges and lawyers and all that. But some people do it just to pretend that they care about getting clean. You did it just to stay out from behind bars.
Yeah.
Like at no point ever when you're going to a year's worth of these classes and all that, would you say you were actually taken seriously?
For the first few months, I was actually serious about it. But once I hit a certain phase in the program, I felt like, all right, God, I got this. Thank you for getting me this far.
Yeah, that happens a lot with people in recovery. They think they're good enough, and they give up trying.
Yeah.
So that's not an uncommon story. What happened to you? But you said you went into a spiral. What happened in the spiral?
Man, I got kicked out of this program, and I wind up having really nowhere to go. So I was going through this place that brought me here, and their stipulations was, okay. I was like, okay, well, they said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to go back home to my family. And they said, all right, well, you can go back home, but you have to come to Monterey County to test once a week, and you have to test over there once a week. And so in my addict mind, I was like, okay, let me see how I can pull this one. And I did, dude. I did. And I wound up graduating that it was called drug treatment court, graduating dope sick as an addict. And I, instead of like using that, like, okay, I really need to get my stuff together, it was just still that addict mind. Let me see how I can wiggle through. And after I graduated that drug treatment court, got my certificate, I was off and running after that.
Yeah, that's you say off and running where to is the question I had, because you negotiated for you to be able to come home to your family. Did your wife and kids know that you were doing things that way?
Not for a while until it became too much. But at this time I would never use needles. I would never use needles at all. And I would just smoke it. I would just smoke. And then after for so long, I did my first shot. And when I did my first shot, there was nothing like it, dude. And it just took me down a whole another path.
Yeah. What's this path? Get into specifics.
The path of addiction.
Yeah.
Needle.
Okay, yes. For audience to understand, injecting intravenously,
Yeah.
more potent, a stronger high, longer lasting, um, more bang for your buck, so to speak. And but it also has much more ravenous effects.
Yeah.
So tell us about this path you were on.
Man, after that, I didn't care. I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about anything but that fix. I just needed to, and even that was even just to move in the morning. If my kids wanted to go play in the park or something, I had to have my fix in order just to even move. And at that point, I just I didn't care, you know, and I wound up just leaving my family. Uh, wound up just going with other girls all the time. You know, my kids didn't really know who I was. I was no positive role models to them at all. You know, and still the gangs and the gangs were still there. You know, at this time, I'm in a totally different area now, and where I come from, like my county kind of holds weight a little bit. So when I moved to this other place, they were like, "Oh, you're from this county? Oh, okay." And they wanted a leader. They wanted someone to lead them, and I was able to do that for them. And so it gave me status over there too.
Yeah. So addiction isn't just to substances. It can be to doing things. I would venture to say, would you say, let me have you answer this one. Would you say you were addicted to that gang life?
I was addicted to the lifestyle for sure. That was my thing. I didn't know that I was addicted to this lifestyle until you asked me this question right now. I'm thinking back, like, yeah, my addiction started way before the actual physical addiction. My addiction started when the gang embraced me. You know, when I started feeling this sense of belonging. You know, that's where I was way addicted to the lifestyle more than the drugs before.
Yeah. So call out to our audience. You know, we've done devotions talking about this sort of thing, but you know, addiction starts before you put anything in your body. And if cell phones, for example, that's like probably the most common addiction nowadays. You look at a brain scan of someone internet addicted and compared to an opiate brain scan, if you don't know what you're looking for, they look identical.
Yeah.
So it's just a call out for everyone to, you know, be diligent on your for yourself as well. You know, we all might have like perfectly normal lifestyles, quote unquote, that we're experiencing, but we're all subject to the same dangers. It just so happens that there are people like Jeremy who've unfortunately not been given the best of hands for his life.
Yeah.
But what was that breaking point for you? Because to like for you getting into City Team, we were talking about earlier, was like a court thing. It wasn't because you hit rock bottom to decide can't do this anymore. What was that moment for you where you hit that rock bottom?
When I hit that rock bottom was when I lost a father figure in my life. And this was later on. This was about, I want to say about 5 years ago, is when I left the place that my kids were at. You know, I went back to Salinas, and after losing him, I kind of just spiraled down. And I've always had my wife with me. She's always been through my whole addiction, you know, and she's always been someone I can count on to be there when no one was there. And when I lost her, she just wanted nothing to do with me no more. My daughter Destiny, she wanted nothing to do with me either. My son, I kind of did no wrong in his eyes, but my daughter, when I called and she didn't, I said, "Where's Destiny?" She didn't want to talk to me. You know, they were really upset, really, really just didn't want nothing to do with me. And that's when I felt like, instead of saying, "Man, I need to do something about this," I dug deeper in my addiction. I said, "You know what? Okay, if they don't want to talk to me, then that's fine. Maybe I didn't want to kill myself, you know, but I said, you know what? Maybe I could do it accidentally. And I just started doing more drugs and putting myself on the front line. Like whatever has to be done, I want to do it. You know, because I don't want to live, but I promised my daughter I would never try to commit suicide again.
You know, it's a tricky thing in language. When people say that they try to commit suicide, there's this impression that there's a gun on a table or a cliff to jump off of. But whether it's that or I don't care if I die or not, it's a similar circumstance.
Yeah.
Anytime you try to do it, it's like a cry for help.
Mm.
It's being like you don't have any other options.
Yeah.
So how bad did it get for you? Like, did you end up almost dying?
I did OD a few times, you know, and then there was times where I would carry a gun, whatever, you know, and I would try to attack bigger dudes or try to do any other things to hopefully I would get hurt in the process of it, you know. And but it wouldn't happen. If anything, it would cost me more money because I was trying to do more drugs to OD or something, but it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it's like you refuse to die. Like there's a reason you're still being alive. Was there ever a point where you're like, God, why am I still alive? Like why do you keep sparing me?
Well, there was a moment of clarity actually in jail. When I went to jail this last time.
Mm-hmm.
I lost the love of my life. I lost my kids. You know, they didn't want nothing to do with me. And when I went to jail this last time, that's when I actually had a moment of clarity. I said, God, I want help. Help me. You know, help me get my life back. And that's when he put it on my heart, you know, recovery. And I thought, like, when I was in this jail cell and I heard this, I'm like, oh, all right, this is what I'm going to tell my family, you know. And I thought the lights were going to get brighter and the doors were going to, you know. And I told them and I said, hey, I'm going to go to a program after. They done heard it all. They've heard it all before. And I, all right, hope you do, you know. But this time, I tried to get court ordered to a program, and they wouldn't court order me.
Yeah, your history.
Like, yeah, they said no, we're not gonna give you a program. You know, you're just gonna have to do your time. And so I was like, okay, you know what? No matter how much time I get, I'm gonna do this. It's time for me to put my words into action. You know. And when I was when I went to court, and me, I've been to court a few times, you know, I heard 84 days and 84 days credit, you know, and so I thought, oh, I'm getting out, you know. But my appellate defender wound up coming up and saying, oh, you're going to do 100 more days. And I was like, all right, you know, but either way, I'm going to go to a program. That was in my heart, I wanted it, you know, and I went back to my cell. And I was like, well, all right, I'll do 100 more days, you know?
100 more days in a cell, basically just with God, right?
Yeah.
But, I just want to hang on something really quick. You said that you heard God say. You heard it, you heard his voice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just looking up at the top bunk, and I was just like, I want my family back. I want my life back. And that's where God put it on my heart, you know. He said recovery, city team.
Wow.
And I was like, and it kind of scared me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of scared me a little bit. I was like, huh, you know. And that's when I couldn't wait to get that to get that phone call, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And my first thing was to call my family so they could accept me back.
Mm-hmm.
They could be like, oh, Dad's gonna go to a program. Oh, let's talk to him now. Or my wife saying, oh, you're going to go to a program. Let's get back together. Mm-hmm. And it just wasn't happening like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you did it before and you gamed the system back then.
Yeah.
You took it seriously for maybe a few months and then gave up.
Yeah.
But in jail, you got an extra 100 days or prison. In prison, you had an extra 100 days added to your sentence. Was that 185 days or whatever? And you served the full sentence. What was their next stop?
So check this out. They told me I was going to do 100 more days, right? But in my heart, right? In my heart, I'm ready to do a program. I'm done with this life. I hear, Jeremy, roll it up. First thought in my mind, I'm going to the hole. They caught me doing something. I got in trouble. And so I'm like, where am I going? They said, don't worry, just roll your stuff up. And I'm like, I'm trying to think, like, did I do something? And I wasn't, like, in jail, I wasn't doing anything like that. So I was like, you know what's going on? The sheriff came up to the door and I said, where am I going? He said, you're going home. And I was like, going home? He goes, do you want to go home or not? And I was like, yeah, all right, cool. So I started rolling my stuff up, and this was the only time that I walked out of jail and had no intention on going back. No intention. I mean, I called my wife and I was like, hey, she's like, what's up? And I said, I'm getting out. And she said, what do you mean you're getting out? I said, yeah, I'm getting out. They're letting me out. She goes, stop lying. And I said, no, I'm not, And she goes, okay, all right, look, if you get out and you don't use, right, and you don't mess up, I'll pick you up and I'll take you to a program on Monday. I got out Thursday night, right? And I walked out of that jail and I had no intention on going back, bro. No intention. I went back to where I was staying in the homeless encampment to say bye to my cousin, because my cousin was out there too, along with my two brothers and stuff. And I went back to say bye to him. And when I was walking down that street, I had everyone saying, hey, what's up, man? Oh, you're back? Oh, you want to do some drugs? And I've never got offered free drugs until I'm not trying to do drugs,
Yeah.
And but I really had no intention on going back, man. And that's when I called. My wife's like, have you done anything? Have you done anything? She was expected of me. And I said, no, yeah. I'm waiting for you.
Good.
Waiting for you. And when I went home that weekend, God actually showed me what I can have if I stay on this path. Man, my daughter, there's a pool at my wife's apartments. And my daughter, whenever she wanted me to go to the pool, I always had to go to the bathroom and do some drugs before I went and did anything. Man, I was in the pool about 2 or 3 times a day that time, man, just being present. I was washing dishes, cleaning, cooking, trying to spend time, My oldest daughter, she was still on the fence about it, though, when I was there.
Yeah. But she saw the worst of it.
Yeah, she was still, like, kind of timid. Like, I don't know if I could trust. I don't know if I could trust him. I don't know if I could trust him. And I couldn't blame her for it, And come Monday, I was ready. I was so ready, so ready. And I came just ready. When I was here before, there's a thing called the 4-step, which is a fearless moral inventory of yourself. And when I was here before, I was like, I'm not putting this on there. I'm not putting this on there. I care what people think about me. I'm not putting this on there. I'm not doing this. And this time around, bro, I didn't care what anybody thought about anything. I wanted all this junk out. I wanted to just give it to God. I fully wanted to surrender. And that's what I did. That's what I did, man. And it took me on another journey, another spiral, Because
different type.
Yeah, different type of spiral, upward spiral.
Upward spiral. Yeah. How do you explain that?
Oh, man. It wasn't all like, I came into recovery and it wasn't all like, everything didn't get smoothed out. I had to go through some stuff here. I had to go through some things here. I was diagnosed with Hep C when I was here. And God showed up in that too, though. And,
yeah, that's it. It was supposedly an incurable thing, right?
Yeah.
But
so I came here and they said, oh, I got Hep C, And I was like, dude, I'm stuck. I'm done. I already know about Hep C about that time. And they go, we have a treatment that can help you. It's a 16-week treatment, right? And so I'm doing these treatments, and I'm just like, man, I'm stuck. This is gonna be me for the rest of my life, Halfway through this treatment, dude. Halfway through this treatment, I go back to detect my levels, and they say it's undetectable. Your Hep C is undetectable. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they said, yeah, we did your blood test and stuff, and it came back, we can't detect it. And I'm like, huh. And mind this, I was a cigarette smoker, bro. I was a cigarette smoker. Like, I was like a pack a day, if not pack and a half a day. Especially in recovery, you start smoking a whole lot in here, because it's a thing to pass time, But man, when I felt that God took that from me, I said, all right, God, here, take these cigarettes too. And cigarettes is something that's hard to stop. I stopped it just as quick as I had a pack in my pocket, dude, and I was it. I smoked the rest of that pack, and that was it. That was it. I quit cigarettes. I've been off cigarettes for almost just about 2 years now, you know? And it's all through just seeing how God's working in someone's life, you know? And
well, it wasn't without challenges. I think that we can start transitioning this sort of conversation to how you've been a victim to so many things that have happened in your life and so many pitfalls of addiction to, hey, God healed you of an incurable disease, an addiction to cigarettes in a short amount of time. Your faith in him is now stronger than ever. What are you doing about it?
I use, like, my faith is stronger than ever today. You know, I rely on God for every little thing. You know, in my morning prayer, it's like, God, use me to speak to someone, use me to lift someone up today. You know, when I came to the program, I was blessed with the job to go and serve the homeless. Man, I didn't know when I first went to the homeless encampment to serve food. I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here, you know, because this is where I came from, you know. And I was like, I don't know about this. But then when I told my wife, because now I'm just in a state where I can actually be open. I can say what's bugging me. I can say what's going on with me. You know, she said, this is somewhere where you can actually relate to people who were exactly where they were, and now you're doing something different. And I was like, that's true. I can use this for good now. You know, I can use what I went through for good, you know? And so I prayed so hard, you know, God, because I come from a long line of addiction. I come from a long line of addiction, long line of addicts, from my cousins to my brothers and sisters, you know? And I was like, okay, God, use me to lift someone up. Use me to speak to someone, you know, let's get one. God, help me get one of my family members in here. And God did that.
Yeah.
He did that. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's fast forward a bit because you got your family members and other people you knew from your past into this program after you graduated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So take us through what it was like working in City Team as an apprentice in the Hope on Wheels program, feeding the unhoused, and having to do all your programming and having to take CCAP classes and graduating. And now what are you doing? Like, what was that like to go through the program and have those extra challenges? And what have you been doing with it post-graduation? And tell us about the big wins that you've had, like your family and all that.
Man, when I graduated, my oldest daughter, which is my best friend, she was my, you know, that's my best friend, you know, and she actually came up to me and gave me a hug and said she was proud of me. And she didn't think I was going to do it. And I had to be honest with her. I said, I didn't think I was going to do it either, you know, but now, man, me and her, we got the best relationship. Just 10 minutes ago, I was texting her to say I love her. You know, we talk all the time. You know, me and my kids got a really good relationship, you know. And right here, I was blessed to get an opportunity to do CCAP, which is drug and alcohol counselor license, something I never thought I'd be doing. You know, and I completed that. And now I get to help people that are in jail get the program. You know, there's people from that I was on the streets with before that are in the program today, that are doing recovery today.
Yeah, well, you have transitioned from graduating from the program to now being on staff.
Yeah,
at City Team San Jose. Tell me about what your position is and what your sort of duties are.
Yeah, so right now I'm intake coordinator. It's where guys call from jail or any application that gets filled out, I go over it. And with all my CCAP training, I see what kind of drugs they were on. If we need to send them to detox, if we need to send them, if they can come right in, you know. And it's actually really, really cool to see people come in beaten down, you know, weighing nothing, and then you see them 6 months later where they get the job they want. You know, they get their family back in their life. You know, they get their confidence back, license. Me, myself, I haven't had a license for 12 years, and I got my license today.
Your driver's license?
Yeah.
Oh, about time.
Yeah.
We won't tell anybody what you were doing. Ah.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man. I know that was something you were working towards.
Yeah.
And just to highlight something about what you were just talking about, watching people grow from when they walk into these doors for the first time into who they are at graduation.
Yeah.
It's so much like a caterpillar crawling in and a butterfly flying out.
Right.
Like, literally, you said it, in the first 3 to 4 months, they gain like all their health back, their weight back. And like your family member who came in, he, you said it, lost a lot of weight. But you get to see that journey with everyone who makes it.
Yeah.
And it's a really powerful thing to be a part of. It's really cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that I find joy in the day. I find joy in seeing other people get their confidence back. I find joy in when people come in and they feel that they're not going to make it, and then before I know it, they're getting their graduation speech together, and I get to see that whole transition. I get to see it all play out.
Yeah,
yeah, and it's something. That's what brings me joy today. Is seeing other people get their confidence back, get the peace in their life, and actually surrender and let God take a hold of their life. Because every time that I took the wheel, it was usually stolen or I crashed the car.
Well, I just call this out because you're able to be a part of this whole process and be a part of this whole experience because you answered that call from God. Mm-hmm. You heard Him, you were listening, and you were desperate and went to Him for it. Yeah. Not the people who are taking advantage of you, of your past and your childhood. So you did this whole thing. You're doing wonderful work now. What's on the horizon for you? What's your future looking like? What are your plans?
Man, I really, really want to just further my career in case management. I feel like that's my calling. I really want to help out. I really want to help people. And it's something I never thought I'd be doing. I'm a case manager. And I get to walk through people. I get to walk with people through their recovery, and it's something I love doing. I want to further my career in case management and be a drug and alcohol counselor. And really, my main goal is I want to reach the youth. I want to start talking to juveniles, and I want to get them before they get to the stage where I was, where it was no turning back. Mm-hmm. I feel like if we get the youth at a young age and we tell them, that their life doesn't have to be that, I feel like we would actually save a whole lot of individuals from a whole lot of chaos and heartache and stuff. Yeah, and pain. Yeah, I'm right there with you because similarly, I had a bit of a calling to end the in-house crisis, but I was always, and a lot of people who do what we have done are always going into the trenches to pull the people out, and it's a lot harder to take someone who's not hit that rock bottom yet to convince them that the rock bottom is coming than it is to educate children on how to not get there in the first place. Right. So I really, really, really do see that calling for you in your life. And I'm really grateful that you've answered all those calls. And you're listening, and God's been blessing you with reunifying you with your family. You've obviously have had a really a lot of challenges in your life that you've faced and overcome, but God has taken those and strengthened you with them, and now you use that as ammunition when you are connecting with people who do come through doors like a city team, or you do connect with when you're feeding people and all that. And I'm really grateful to know you as a human being. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, when I see you, I think of Paul. Paul, the antithesis of Christ when he was Saul, murderer of Christians. But then he authored the most amount of books in the Bible because Christ intervened in his life, and he never looked back since. And what happened to him was a miracle, and what happened to you is a miracle. And in my opinion, the Bible is just what was recorded. And it's a living book, obviously, and it's an instruction manual for all of us to follow. But if people were still writing, the book would never end. Yeah. Because there's constant miracles, and people like yourself who've been through hell and back and are giving back. And just like what we're called to do, we keep just answering those calls and keep maintaining that relationship with Christ. And that's how the world changes, one person at a time.
Yeah, one person at a time.
Any closing words from you, sir?
Man, I just really appreciate I've never really told my whole story like that, you know. I've told bits and pieces, but just to go back, I'm so glad that God never gave up on me, you know. And I can never see myself without drugs and alcohol. Now I can never see myself going back to it. So I appreciate the podcast. Thank you.
You heard from him. It's Jeremy, everyone. Thanks again, Jeremy, for sharing your story with us. And hopefully this story will be impactful for anyone out there who might be suffering or might be helping someone else who might be suffering. You can check us out anytime on our website or catch us on YouTube. We'll see you guys later. Hey, well, thanks for watching the Virilis podcast.
Yeah, now don't forget, if you like what you have seen here and you want to see more content like this flowing your way, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button on our YouTube channel so you can be notified. Also, we are on Spotify and we have our own website. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating so that way we can get more people involved.
Yes, and if you want more exclusive content, go to our website in the description below. There we have our full unedited podcast devotions, and we also have blueprints. Yes. So what does that mean, Charlie?
So that means that we have blueprints where you can start a group of your own. If you feel compelled to do so, you can download the content and you can contact us with any questions that you would have about starting a group. But in the meantime, goodbye and Godspeed.